11 proven winners, players with serious careers behind them, a combined trophy cabinet that would embarrass most clubs in Europe. And yeah, as the summer transfer window heads towards its final weeks, every single one of them finds himself unwanted by their employers, or simply stuck in transfer limbo with nobody willing to make the move happen. In goal, Aaron Ramsdale. Ramsdale is back at Southampton after Newcastle declined to trigger the £20 million option included in his loan, with Newcastle choosing to search the market for an upgrade rather than commit to the fee. His situation only got messier from there. Southampton were excluded from the Championship playoffs entirely and hit with a 4-point deduction for next season after being caught spying on semi-final opponents Middlesbrough. The so-called Spygate scandal that broke trust between the players and the club's hierarchy. Ramsdale, still just 28 and capped by England at senior level, now finds himself goalkeeper for a second-tier club in genuine turmoil. A long way from the Arsenal side he helped push to a Champions League finish back in 22-23, and even further from another crack at a Premier League return, a level he has proven over 183 top-flight appearances that he belongs at. At right back, Dani Carvajal. Real Madrid officially confirmed in May that Carvajal would leave the club at the end of the 25-26 season, bringing down the curtain on 13 seasons in the first team. His numbers are ridiculous: 450 appearances, 14 goals and 27 trophies, including 6 European Cups and 4 La Liga titles. Carvajal isn't some forgotten player who disappeared overnight, he is a Real Madrid legend. He was the right back for one of the most successful eras in modern football, scored in a Champions League final, and won the 2024 Champions League Final Player of the Match award, made the 2024 FIFPro World 11, and eventually became Madrid's captain. Football doesn't care about your resume. At 34, with injuries having become an increasing part of his story, Carvajal has reached the point where clubs have to decide whether they want the experience, leadership and quality of a 6-time European champion, or whether they would rather invest in someone younger. Alongside him, David Alaba. Alaba also left Real Madrid this summer after 5 seasons in Spain, having won 11 trophies with the club, including 2 Champions Leagues and 2 La Liga titles. His final years at Madrid were badly disrupted, particularly by knee problems, and that makes him a difficult proposition despite everything he's achieved. At his peak, Alaba could play centre-back, left-back or midfield and was one of Europe's most complete defenders. He won everything at Bayern Munich before moving to Madrid and adding even more trophies. But for a club considering a free agent, reputation is only half the equation. The other half is whether he can actually stay on the pitch. Partnering him, Benoit Badiashile. Chelsea have been looking for a solution to Badiashile's situation. The player Chelsea bought from Monaco for a reported £35 million has struggled to establish himself as a regular starter in an increasingly crowded squad. And this is where his situation becomes fascinating. Badiashile is still only 25. He isn't finished. He isn't even close to being finished. But Chelsea have accumulated so many centre-backs that regular football has become increasingly difficult to guarantee. For Badiashile, a move to Napoli could be less about escaping Chelsea and more about finally finding somewhere that trusts him enough to play every week. At left-back, Tyrell Malacia. Manchester United confirmed in June that Malacia would leave the club when his contract expired, ending a 4-year spell that never developed into what either side expected. Malacia made only 50 appearances for United, with persistent injuries wrecking his progress after his 2022 move from Feyenoord. And that's brutal when you remember how quickly he initially settled. Malacia arrived as a young, aggressive fullback who looked perfectly suited to Premier League football. Then the injuries came, and once a player spends too long away from the pitch, getting back isn't simply about fitness, it's rhythm, confidence, sharpness and trust from the manager. At 26, Malacia still has time to rebuild his career, but right now he's a free agent with something to prove. In midfield, Paul Pogba. The Pog back didn't exactly go according to plan. Pogba joined Monaco in 2025 after serving an 18-month doping ban, returning to competitive football after a huge period away from the game. But injuries prevented him from building any momentum, and he managed just 115 minutes during the 25-26 season. Monaco general manager Thiago Scuro later admitted that the project had not worked as expected, with the club now willing to let him leave. And that's what makes Pogba one of the biggest what-ifs on this list, because we're not talking about a player who once had potential. We're talking about a World Cup winner, a midfielder who was once worth huge money, dominated games for Juventus, returned to Manchester United for a then world record Premier League transfer fee, and produced moments of brilliance that very few midfielders could replicate. But the body hasn't cooperated. After the suspension, Pogba needed time to rebuild. Instead, more injuries arrived. Now at 33, he needs someone to believe that there's still enough football left in those legs. Beside him, Fabinho. This is another player whose resume makes the situation strange. His contract at Al Ittihad expired this summer, and the Saudi club moved almost immediately to sign Lopi from Almeria as his replacement. At Liverpool, Fabinho was the security blanket, the man sitting in front of the defence, breaking up attacks, controlling transitions and giving everyone else permission to attack. He won the Premier League. He won the Champions League. He played in one of the greatest Liverpool sides of the modern era. But at 32, after 3 seasons in Saudi, the European market isn't exactly throwing itself at him. One of the best defensive midfielders of his generation is currently looking for his next club. Completing the midfield is Arthur Melo. Arthur remains one of European football's great cautionary tales, arriving at Juventus in an €86 million swap deal with Miralem Pjanic back in 2020. 4 consecutive loan spells followed at Liverpool, Fiorentina, Girona, and finally his boyhood club Gremio, where he rediscovered something closer to his old form. Gremio couldn't meet Juventus's valuation, so Arthur's expected back in Turin this summer. Still only 29, his long-term future still entirely unresolved. Up front, Raheem Sterling. Sterling terminated his Chelsea contract by mutual agreement in January after being frozen out under 3 different managers and exiled to the club's so-called bomb squad. A stunning fall for a 4-time Premier League winner who once scored 79 goals in 3 seasons under Pep Guardiola. A brief loan at Feyenoord followed, and at 31, with 82 England caps to his name, he's once again searching for regular football. Alongside him, Jadon Sancho. Manchester United officially confirmed in June that Sancho would leave when his contract expired, ending 5 years at Old Trafford. He had spent the final 3 seasons of his United career on loan at Borussia Dortmund, Chelsea and Aston Villa. Think about how strange that is. United paid around £73 million to bring Sancho back to England after he'd become one of Europe's most exciting young attackers at Dortmund. 5 years later, they let him walk away for nothing. Sancho is now 26, which is why this might be the easiest career resurrection on the entire list. He's already shown what he can do. He's already played at the highest level, and he's already returned to Dortmund once and produced enough to remind everyone that the ability is still there. The question isn't whether Sancho can play football, it's whether he can finally find the environment where everything clicks again. And leading the line, Rafael Leao. Leao's situation is completely different. He is not a free agent. He's not unwanted by Milan. He's wanted by Milan to stay. Leao made his desire to leave Milan crystal clear this summer, dreaming openly of the Premier League or La Liga after 7 years at San Siro. The problem is that dream never got a serious offer behind it. Manchester United and Barcelona both called their earlier interest, and Fenerbahce and Galatasaray never turned talk into an official bid Milan considered, close to their 50 to 60 million asking price. With no suitors stepping up, Leao has been pictured back in training, smiling with teammates, reintegrating under new head coach Ruben Amorim ahead of the Serie A opener. A big move he wanted but simply couldn't force through. That's a genuinely frightening 4-3-3 on paper, built entirely from unwanted talent. Get half of them firing again and a few sides in Europe would enjoy facing it. Which one bounces back strongest? Let us know in the comments. Hit like, subscribe and the bell. Catch you next time.